Thank you to all of our clients that are here, all of our writers that are here. I know it's been an amazing couple days. You're at the end. Just stick with me a little bit longer, and we're going to talk about some really cool stuff. So Clayton overshot me a little bit. I haven't even been with HOTH for a year, coming up on it real close. And before I want to dive into all of the tools and the techniques and the strategies that I'm going to talk about today so that you can create the best goddamn content you can, I want to jump back a little bit and talk about how we got here today. So I started at the HOTH in March of 2017, right? And from day one, I was in the trenches doing QC, doing topics full time. So the remote people that are here that do those things, I know what it's like. And really from day one, Rachel started grooming me for taking over HOTH Blogger and becoming the manager. And we got here today from a business decision that the HOTH made last summer. And I want to talk a little bit about that business decision. So without, and Lauren just mentioned this a moment ago, which is pretty cool. So without the Facebook group that we decided to create last summer, I don't think any of this would have happened. So I got there in March, a couple months into it. I'm being groomed to take over Blogger. And around May, June, I get sort of half-handed the position, right? So I would be remiss if I did not give a shout-out to Amy, who is my co-captain all the way up till now. She's kept the train on the tracks and kept things moving all the way up till now. So I didn't actually take over Blogger officially until January 2nd, 2018. Yeah, it was a pretty cool start to the new year, right? Anyway, so this Facebook group, Clayton came to me in May, June. He's like, all right, we're going to create a Facebook group for all of our writers, all of our topic creators, all of our QC. What do you think? I think, all right, let's do it. And this decision, it was a little bit difficult because, we didn't know what was going to happen, right? You open up this public forum, this space where you invite 200 plus people to come and interact and connect, and who knows what's going to happen? Well, from day one, it was very clear that it was the best decision that we could have possibly made. Our writers were able to connect with us more closely, to connect with each other, to share ideas, to share writing tips and concepts and techniques, to better serve our clients, which is awesome, and to improve as a writer. So all of that is to say, thank you so much to our writing team for facilitating such a great presence and to really making HOTHCON a reality with upholding the HOTH culture and values that were created on our Facebook group. So if you can give everybody a quick round of applause. Thanks. Thank you. Now we're going to jump into doubling the impact of your writing in half the time. So you may be asking, how do I create the best goddamn content? Well, not like this. My friend Nancy here is really frustrated because she doesn't know how to create better content. And I'll preface this whole presentation with there's going to be a lot of stuff like this. We're going to have fun and we're going to laugh, and that's just how it's going to go. So, well, I would tell Nancy it starts with your headline, right? And why does it start with your headline? Why do headlines matter? Well, a day in the internet shows that 2 million blogs, 294 billion emails, and 864,000 hours of video are created daily. Also 400 million tweets, BT dubs, thank you, Donald Trump. And you may be thinking to yourself, well, goddamn, that's a lot of noise. How do I cut through that, right? How do I create better content that's gonna convert? Well, you do that by focusing a lot of energy on your headline. You should spend probably as much time creating the best headline as you do curating your content. And why is that? Well, just 20% of your readers will continue past your headline. That's just a stat. And what do I do about this? Well, you make your headlines compelling as fuck. How? Well, one tip is that you could follow the 4 U's. Make your headline urgent, unique, useful, and ultra-specific. All right. I want to bring attention to this next quote by Peter Ketchley, I think. Don't know how to say his name quite right. I looked it up earlier today. I forgot. And he was a co-founder of Upworthy, and Upworthy really made a huge splash a few years ago in the space. And they did this by creating really, really great headlines that people wanted to click. Some people thought them to be creating clickbaity things, and some people didn't like them for that. But regardless, their headlines worked. And what he said about headlines was that the headline is our one chance for those who have a million other things that they're thinking about and who didn't wake up in the morning wanting to care about feminism or climate change or the policy details of the election. I think that rings true. So I went searching around, and I went looking at, well, what creates a great headline? And I found some studies that discussed some of the tactics and techniques around creating a great headline and what readers actually prefer. What are their preferences? So let's look at a few. I grabbed this from Moz. This takes a look at the use of superlatives in headlines. Things like best, words like best and smartest and ever and perfect. And what we found was actually that readers prefer headlines that are cut down a little bit. They don't want a ton of superlatives in their headlines. They prefer them understated. So we found that over 50% actually liked 0 to 1 superlative in the headline. So the 27 ways to train a dog, the 27 best ways to train a dog converted much, much better than the 27 best ways ever to train a perfect dog. Kind of sounds ridiculous, right? I wouldn't want to click on that. It sounds spammy. It sounds kind of silly. Another thing that we looked at was the capitalization in headlines. So 64% of responders found that sentence case worked best. This is exactly what we do with Hoth Blogger. This is capitalizing the most important parts of your headline, right? You're not capitalizing nothing, and you're not yelling at your audience by capitalizing everything. You're capitalizing the most important words. The 5 steps to prepare for the impending zombie apocalypse. All right? So this really cool tool that I found when I was going around and I was hunting and thinking a lot about headlines is this headline analyzer. And I popped in a quick headline. Double the impact of your writing today. Pretty simple. It got a score of 68. That's kind of okay. It's not amazing, right? This analyzer works off of common, uncommon words in headlines, emotional words, and power words. Now, you may not know what those are, but this tool has these little hyperlinks built into it, the best words for headlines and the full analysis. When you click into those, it'll tell you what your power words are, what your emotion words are, your common and your uncommon. So I thought, okay, well, how can I make this headline better? So I threw how to in front of it. Score went from 68 to 76. That's pretty significant, right? No, why is that? Why do 2 little words convert better? Does anybody have a guess? Yes? Right. Great. Yeah, how to tells the searcher that they're going to learn something. They're going to learn some instruction here, right? All right, so we're actually going to talk a little bit more about Headline Analyzer and another tool I'm going to be speaking about later on. But now that we've figured out our headlines and we have a tool that we can use to best use to best facilitate a headline, we're going to talk about target audience. Who am I writing to? What do I want them to do? And how do I persuade them to take the action desired? Think about that for a second, right? When you're writing content, you don't just sit there and start typing away. Do you? I hope you don't. So leverage this ish. Leverage these questions to meet the goal that you desire. We're going to look at a quick example. We're going to talk about Rick. Rick loves hitting the golf course with the boys. But what does Rick want? Rick wants to beat the boys in golf. He wants to be better than his friends at golf. So maybe your headline's something like 5 tips to perfect your swing on the green. That's an all right headline. I could have spent a lot more time curating it. Well, I got 5 tips, right? Boom, 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 boom. There they are. But what are we doing? What are we doing when we tell Rick how to perfect his golf swing? We are providing valuable content to the reader. We're offering actionable information, and we're seamlessly incorporating our product or service along the way. What's our product or service in this example? You pick. Is it tutorials on golf swings, a video series? Is it some other program, some other informational package? I don't know. Either way, that is not the focal point of the content. The focal point of the content is the reader's needs, the reader's wants. Make sense? Good. The next thing that I want to discuss when creating effective content is AIDA. Does anybody know what AIDA stands for? Hands? In the back. What does it stand for? Attention, interest, desire, action. A+. What are we doing when we're writing content? We want to grab our reader's attention. We want to provide some interesting facts to pique their interest. We want to make our clients desire the products or action that we desire. And we're going to describe to them exactly how we want them to do that. An example that I'm going to steal from Clayton right now. Does anybody remember taking a foreign language class in high school, college? Yeah, everybody. You had to, right? Well, when you walk into class, what does your first day look like? When you walk in, did your teacher tell you to sit down, open the page to, I don't know, chapter 1, page 12? We're going to look at AR verbs. And I bet you remember sitting there, not even wanting to open your book, but maybe you did, and you slouched in your seat, and you thought, why the hell do I want to learn about AR verbs? What does this mean to me? What am I going to do with this information? That's not utilizing AIDA. The flip side of that is you walk into class, and your teacher tells you to sit down, and they turn off the lights, and they turn on the projector, and they show you a picture like this. This happens to be a picture I took in Marseille, France. And then they show you a picture of the mountains outside of Madrid, and then of Machu Picchu, and then of Mayan ruins. And they say, what do you think of this? This is pretty cool, right? Would you like to go here? Would you like to see these things? Would you like to interact with this culture, these people? Would you like to eat the food? Would you like to be able to communicate effectively? Yeah, probably. I think it's pretty cool to travel. Now, open up your books to page 12, chapter 1. We're going to start you on your journey so that you can be a world traveler. We're going to talk about AR verbs. Let's talk about another example. We're going to talk about a CEO who hates traffic to and from work. What's our goal? Maybe convince him or her that they need to buy a helicopter. A little insane. Stay with me. So what are we going to do? We're going to grab their attention. Hey, you know that bumper-to-bumper traffic you hate every day? Would you like to avoid that? All that frustration and anger? Well, maybe you should buy a helicopter. Well, what? Well, hang on. With a helicopter, you get to work faster. You're going to eliminate all of the frustration from the traffic and the bumper-to-bumper. And maybe you can see some dope sights along the way. Playing to the desire of a CEO, we play to the money, to the monetary. So let's estimate that your time is worth $200 an hour, and you spend 300 of your hours every year sitting in traffic. That's 60 grand. It's pretty significant, right? So now that I've moved through those steps, the last thing is the action. I have a company that sells helicopters, and I would like to show them to you. Let's get in touch. So we've talked about our headlines, and we've talked about our target audience, and we've talked about AIDA, how we could best communicate with our clients and serve their needs. And we're going to talk about writing simply. Results from a study conducted by the U.S. Department of Education found that the average Americans read and assimilate information from an 8th grade reading level. That's not very impressive. But that's okay. It is our job as content creators to write clearly and concisely and with our readers' interests in mind. A tool that we use at the HOTH to make this a reality is something called Hemingway app, which grades the readability score of a piece of content based off of passive voice and difficult-to-read sentences and adverbs, and it's a great tool, and it's free. So when I talk about writing simply, I'll give you another example. I'm talking about writing clearly. So our convoluted version is we propose to ensure a higher level of symbiotic balance between the teams working on Project X. What the hell does that mean? It means nothing, right? So our writing clearly version of that is the teams working on Project X will receive equal attention, time, and resources. And a bonus is that it's an active voice. Another part of what we do at the HOTH to write engaging content. We're going to make it sharp. We're going to make our content sharp to cut through the noise. Not this kind of sharp, if anyone's familiar with Sharper Image. They're that wonderful, weird company that sits in malls and you can hang out in these weird little things. What I'm talking about is writing clearly, writing concisely, getting punchy. Give your post a proofread your post. Alcohol is the cause of hangovers. Alcohol causes hangovers. Again, eliminating fluff, writing an active voice, and giving a very clear message. Mark Benioff, CEO of Salesforce, says that speed is the new currency of business. Well, what are we going to do? We're going to keep calm and make a plan. And what do we need? We need tools. Not this kind. These kinds, kind of, right? Pop quiz. Who's this sexy 19th century hunk? Close. There it is. Yeah, give me a hand. This is Henry David Thoreau, and I pulled one of his quotes. This is just the start of one of his longer quotes, and it says, "I went to the woods because I wished to live deliberately." Well, we as content creators, we as writers wish to write deliberately. So I want you to channel your inner Thoreau. And how do you do that now? How do you do that in modern society when there are so many cat videos you could watch? Look at this guy. Look at his eyes. He's missing cat videos in his life, right? When you want to get down to business and you want to create, what do you need to do? You need to destroy distractions. There's a ton of tools out there, and the slew of tools that I'm going to talk about in the back half of this presentation, many of which are free, some of which have a paid subscription. You check them out and see what works for you. So when we're talking about destroying distractions, the first tool I want to talk about is a tool called freedom. And it's kind of funny that this kind of thing exists now, but because there are so many cat videos and puppy videos and duck videos and everything else you could waste your time with, freedom locks your devices from access to selected web pages up to the entire internet, if you wanted, for a desired period of time. So you could get down to focusing on the task at hand. So what does it look like when I try to go to Google and look at cat videos? It looks like this. You are free from google.com, so you can focus on your work. So you can focus on creating quality content that's going to engage your client and convert. Another tool that does this is called self-control, pretty on the nose. It's for Mac devices. This one's free. Another one that does this is called Cold Turkey, and this is for Windows people, and it's to help with your internet addiction, Gabe, who is not here, but I was not going to take that out of my presentation. The next tool that I want to talk about with time management is a tool called Timeout, which, again, as simple as it is, for the workaholics out there that don't know how to step away from their computer for a few minutes, that don't know how to go for a walk or grab a cup of coffee or just get away from their screen, this allows you to create customizable breaks. And I think one of the coolest parts of this tool is that you can track your breaks and then track your app activity. This gives you a degree of separation from your work, right? It allows you to take the 100-foot view and see what you're doing while you're working. Do you need to be using all 10 applications during that last period of work time? If not, this app can show you that. So now that we've established our freedom, we're going to talk about getting ambient. And a study in the Journal of Consumer Research found moderate levels of ambient noise enhance subjects' performance on creative tasks. So what I want you to do next, now that you've destroyed your distractions, I want you to get ambient. There's a million tools out there. Most of them are all free. And this is a collection of some of my favorites. So the first one, Noisily, is just pretty sounds. It's train tracks and campfires and thunder and rain and all that nonsense. The next one is Coffivity, which is great when you've been held up in your home for 3 days and you don't even know what a human face looks like anymore. This app simulates the sounds of a coffee shop. So you can hear all the little clinks and the little sounds of people walking around and chatting. So you could trick your mind into thinking you're actually part of this world. There's Rainy Mood, and there's ambient playlists and instrumental artists. And if you need artist suggestions, you can ask Nat. He's the one with the longest hair here. So we've destroyed our distractions, and we've gotten ambient so we could focus. What other tool are we going to use in our arsenal? We're going to use a tool called WorkFlowy. And this allows you to organize your brain. You can create tasks, project management, workflow, outlines, which if you're a writer, you should be creating an outline first before you get down to writing the meat of the article, of the blog. You can import lists from Google Docs and export when necessary. You can create tags on your lists. You can create shareable workflows to collaborate with others. And lastly, you can print your workflow if you hate trees, like this guy. I don't know why he hates trees. My first question would be, that's why, that's weird. But if that's for you, if you like killing trees, you can do that too with WorkFlowy. Here's my WorkFlowy that I created recently. You'll see some of my things on there. And the one in all caps is staying up all night before reworking your slides again. That's exactly what I did from, I don't know, let's say 3 to 5 this morning. No, it was good. It was worth it. What else do you need in your arsenal? You need a better task management system. Why? Well, I'm glad you asked. Who of us in here procrastinate? Yeah, that seems about right. Parkinson's law dictates that work expands so as to fill the time available for its completion. So, I know you remember your days in high school or in college when you had a paper due in a day or a week or a month and you waited till the very end to get it done. Another problem that a lot of people have when sitting down to work on a task is multitasking. It's bad. Don't do it. Why? Well, multitaskers experience a 40% drop in productivity. It takes them 50% longer to accomplish a task, and they're up to 50% more likely to make mistakes along the way. That's a problem. So what are we going to do about it? We're going to use a task management system. Anybody here familiar with the Pomodoro method? A few hands. Cool. Well, what it is, it's really, really simple. You're going to pick your task. You're going to focus on that task for 25 minutes. You set a timer. The timer goes off, and you take a break, 5 minutes. This allows you to really focus and hone in on what you need to complete. After the 5 minutes, make a mark that you've taken one solid session of working, set the timer again, rinse and repeat 3-4 times, and then you take a longer break. This is good for your mind, it's good for your eyes, I'm sure, and this will better help you create quality content. You need a calendar. Not this kind of calendar exactly, but now that you mention it, yeah, Nuns Having Fun sounds pretty good. But really the kind of calendar that you need is an editorial calendar. It's really sinking in still, yeah, it's good. So the best editorial calendar that I found is a calendar called CoSchedule. It's a WordPress plugin. You can organize your blog and your social media outreach, schedule your blog posts, schedule your social media posts, events. You can plan your campaigns. You can link this up with your Facebook and your Instagram and your Twitter and your LinkedIn and on and on and on. You can set up your campaigns as drafts or you just schedule them and forget them. And you can integrate this with Evernote, with Google Docs, Google Analytics, Google Calendar, et cetera, et cetera. You can collaborate with your team if you have a team of individuals you're working with. It's got some really, really cool tools built into it, like Headline, an analyzer that we talked about at the beginning of this presentation, and Requeue, which will automate your social reshares for the optimum time to share that content again. There's a really fantastically built tutorial system that they call their masterclass, so you can best use this tool to leverage for your goals. And of course, it's Grammarly compatible like everything else. And who here knows what Grammarly is? most people. It's a really great plugin that you can use on your web browser that's a great guide for editing. So it's an editorial tool. It works very seamlessly. So I created a CoSchedule calendar just the other day, and I named it Nuns Having Fun, because how could I not name it Nuns Having Fun? And I threw up a couple things there, some Facebook posts, some blog posts that would go live on these dates, an event, some prep time for this presentation. Here's another one. This is pulled from CoSchedule themselves. It's a little more built out, obviously. You can see a lot more of the things that you can do with this. Pretty cool tool. The last section of things, last tool set that I'm going to discuss is writing tools. And again, there are a million out there, and many of which are free, some of which you can pay for. It depends on your needs, but I'm going to highlight a few of them. The first one I'm going to highlight is a tool called Ulysses. And Ulysses, you can directly publish to your WordPress. All of your files are organized and autosave in your library built in. It'll sync with iCloud and Dropbox. You can easily mark up these documents. You have word count goals, and it's Mac OS and iOS compatible. Another one that I found really useful is one that's called FocusWriter. A lot of the same feature set. This happens to be compatible with Windows and Linux. Again, spell check, real-time goals, word count, daily goals, all those kinds of good things to keep you on track. The last one I want to highlight is one that's called Write or Die. This one's kind of like your truth or dare of writing platforms, because you can set writing goals, and then you can reward yourself, or you can punish yourself. And you can punish yourself in a myriad of weird ways, starting with a mean cat staring at you, probably the grumpy cat one. I didn't get to see that. I met my writing goals. Hey. All the way up to the application actually deleting your work. That's incentive, right? Another tool I want to highlight, another writing tool that I think a lot of people don't think of or don't think to leverage for content creation is speech-to-text. Again, there's a million ways, a million apps out there that you can purchase, or there's Google Docs on Chrome. It's free. And why would you use speech-to-text exactly? Well, you can get your ideas down fast. You can talk a lot faster than you can type, right? So you get your ideas down, and then you elaborate on them later. Maybe you have a problem with developed voice. Maybe you sound a little robotic when you write on that first draft. Well, if you speak what you want to say, you're going to sound more conversational. A big part of quality content is sounding conversational, sounding like a peer to your reader. And it doesn't hurt to get away from the keyboard and the mouse a little bit. Goodbye carpal tunnel, back pain, eye strain, right? So we've talked about a lot. We've talked about creating captive headlines. We've talked about leveraging your target audience, about how to best use AIDA, writing clearly, making it punchy, destroying distractions, getting ambient, organizing your brain, some task management, an editorial calendar, and writing tools. And I'll say now, before I forget, that, of course, you can email me. I'm going to have my contact information at the end if you missed any of this in your note-taking. But the last thing that we're going to do is we're going to own it. We're going to be the best, or we're going to read the best. You're here because you have goals. You have business goals, you have writing goals, you have dreams that you want to achieve. I'll share a quick little story. a few years ago when I was at university, I'm an English major, and I had this professor. His name was Dr. Francis Tobian, and I had him for this old Western literature writing Western literature class, and we read like, the Odyssey and Ovid, and all that really, really fun stuff. Beowulf. Yeah. Anyway, not my cup of tea, but really awesome professor, really great instructor. And I was very impressed in his class because he would be reading the text, and he'd be speaking in English, and then he would sift into Old English while reading Beowulf, and then sift into Spanish and French, and then back into English. And I was just blown away. How does this guy do this? How is he who he is? How does he know all of these languages? How is he a doctorate, right? So I really wanted to pick his brain for a moment, and luckily we have a pub on campus, so it was a good way to grab a beer with a professor. And I sat him down, and I was like, we got a 8-page paper due at the end of the week, or whatever the situation was. How do I approach this? How do I deal with this assignment? And he looked at me and he said, you're treating this like it's an obstacle. The writing assignment, the essay, the test, whatever it is, it's not an obstacle in front of you. Treat it as a step along the path to your goals. So your blog posts, your social media outreach, you should not be thinking of these as obstacles. You should be thinking of them as the next thing that you need to create to get you where you want to go. Change your mindset, right? Own it. You are a writer, you are a content creator, and you're that because you want to be that. You're here because you love creating badass content. So there's no other way to finish up a presentation full of weird memes and GIFs and all that nonsense than this next one. And I just want to go out by saying, like my friend Shia says, just do it. Thank you.
Yo, does anybody have any questions for Ben? You want to put up your hands? Here we go.
I have another writing tool. It's called Written Kitten.
Yeah.
And every 100 words, you can set it however many you want. You get a picture of a cute little baby cat.
That sounds great.
It's a really simple interface, though, so just...
Cool. Written Kitten. You got write that down.
That's awesome. Anybody else? You going right there.
So I've been using this app called Quality Time on my phone that sort of changed the game a little bit for me. Because you can set up different profiles. So like when I'm in work mode, there are specific apps that I allow myself to keep open, like Evernote, and every other ones are blocked. And then you can also set punishments. So if you try to cheat and open an app that doesn't work, it'll actually lock your phone out even longer. So it won't delete your shit, which is crazy. I don't know why anyone would do that, but
Yeah.
I think it's a good one to try too.
What? Say it one more time.
It's called Quality Time.
Quality Time. That's awesome.
All right. Anybody else? We got the one right there.
Hey, so I love the ideas that you have for making things more efficient, but sometimes, let's say you come across a subject that you are being tasked to write about. Let's just say it's like mechanical brake pads or something, and you don't know anything about this.
So
and
something
it's such
sexy.
It's a super niche thing, and you know that this will drag on your efficiency to have to research something completely new. So what are like the top 2 or 3 things that you do when you're like hitting a wall with an idea that is completely foreign to you, to try to distill it all, and it's super specific, and you maybe don't have the topics to get into it?
Sure. That's a really great question. Really great question. So how do you approach a topic that you know nothing about? Well, do you know any mechanics? I, you know, as simple as it may sound, you just got to dig. You got to dig for those resources. So we talked a lot about Google and rankings and what ends up where. And capstone content, long-form content that's going to be the ultimate guides to thing, you're going to see that more and more. So I would dig for that. In that space, you can use a tool called Ahrefs, which they have a drop-down called Content Explorer, and you can search for any key term, like mechanic or anything of that nature, and it's going to find a ton of stuff on that. It's going to also show you all the social shares. We use this during topic ideation at Hoth Blogger. So Ahrefs is a really, really great tool to help highlight some things that you probably wouldn't find with a simple query search in Google. So I think that would be my number one tool for that. Clayton, you have any other ideas that I haven't touched on there?
No, I think that's great. I would just make sure you have really good sources. Find out the best sources, and then that's it, man. Don't try to invent it in your mind. Go look at what's ranking on Google, what's already out there, and then model that. That works really well.
Yeah, great. Great question.
Anybody else? I got one right there.
Yeah.
Does CoSchedule have an app and it'll sync to your iPhone, to your MacBook?
I don't know the answer to that, actually. I'm not sure that they have an app. I did not see that on their platform. They may very well have an app. It's a very cool tool, though, and they have a 14-day free trial that I would recommend checking out. And they have it sectioned out for individuals that use the editorial calendar and larger and larger teams that need that as well.